Well, joining us now from the town of Beit Shemesh to talk about both COVID-19 and also Israeli politics is former Israeli parliament member Dov Lipman. And Dov, let's first of all be clear, we are talking here really about only elements in the ultra-Orthodox community. We're not generalizing, but still, you've been an activist in that community. What's it going to take? And what should the Israeli authorities be doing to prevent events like that funeral last night in Bnei Brak?
Well, I think the two necessary events actually have started taking place. The first is the highest level rabbi, if you would, in the ultra-Orthodox community, Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, who early on in the process, there are videos of him being presented with the information, and he's saying, no, schools should stay open, the rabbinic seminary should stay open, synagogues should stay open. And you even saw how he wasn't even told the real situation. Now he's come out today and he has said it is forbidden to hold any gatherings. Actually, anybody who you see gathering together is what's called a rodef. They're causing others to be killed, and you must give them into the authorities. That's a massive shift that has taken place in the ultra-Orthodox community, where very much is driven by the rabbinic leadership. That's number one. Number two, whereas the police, to begin with, the last few days were soft. When it came to this community, you now see scenes today of the police going in, arresting people, fining people significantly, and hopefully those two different levels will crack down and prevent. Sadly, I think we're already on our way towards a bit of a catastrophe in those communities, but maybe we'll be able to mitigate the tragedy somewhat.
Well, hopefully that will be the case. Dov, let's move to politics, because in a way, you were ahead of your time, I think. You were a member of the i24 party. You broke off from it. You actually advocated, I believe, for a unity government. But what do you say to that your former party leader, Yair Lapid, who says Benny Ganz is betraying those people that voted for him on the basis of not joining a Netanyahu government?
I totally understand the value of not wanting to serve with a prime minister who is under indictment and going to trial. But given the combination of two factors, one is the corona crisis. Number two, the opportunity that he has agreed in 18 months to step down. If that is your goal, that he will not be prime minister, let the people of Israel see someone else in that role. This is a golden opportunity for that. In Yair Lapid's case, I think he could have been foreign minister. I think he could have been a very good foreign minister. And imagine if they came into this government with 16 more seats than Benny Ganz is coming in with, and how much influence they can have. There's a certain point in time where we need to come together and govern. Israel cannot go through a fourth election cycle, and I feel therefore that Benny Ganz, people are saying he's ruined his career. It's possible. But if he did so, Israel really was before everything else for him, and he did what Israel needs at this time, a strong, wide government where all factions are coming together to deal with this economic and health crisis like we've never had before. And what will happen down the road, we'll see. But there are some times where values are important, but the survival of Israel and bringing Israel together is even more important, and that's what I wish Yesh Atid would have done, and that's why I applaud Benny Ganz for what he did.
All right, now let's take it to the next step, Dov. Having made that step, what guarantees or what measures, what ministerial seats, what guidelines should Benny Ganz be insisting from Benjamin Netanyahu?
He certainly has asked for a lot. He's asking for dividing the government 15 ministries to each, which is a proportion which is much larger for Benny Ganz. And he's asked for the defense ministry, and he's asked for the foreign ministry. To be honest with you, I would have hoped that he would have stuck with his guns and kept the health ministry away from the hands of Yaakov Litzman, who's there now, who's under investigation for really horrible things. And also, many people are blaming the past leadership of the health ministry for where we are. But I wish he would have taken hold of that as he leads us forward. But most importantly, he has taken control of the justice ministry, the communications ministry, areas where there was abuse from the previous governments and people felt far overreaching from the executive branch. He's trying to find that balance of, the one hand, giving Netanyahu what he needs to be able to continue with this government and give up the premiership in 18 months, while on the other hand, trying to have those checks and balances to make sure that there aren't abuses. I did like the idea that Benny Ganz threw out there, which we heard throughout the day, of the possibility of professional ministers, meaning not taking from your members of Knesset, but outsiders who are experts in the areas to be the ministers. I'm hearing now that they're veering away from that, and that I think is a problem. I think it would have been wonderful for the country to put people who are professionals and experts in the areas to deal with these ministries. As of now, there's no deal that's signed. Right. They say that by the morning they hope that's done. There's a lot of negotiating to do.
Right. Dov, with your experience with the rough and tumble of politics, very briefly, I'm going to just ask you, even yes or no, do you believe Benny Ganz will actually be the prime minister in a year and a half?
I do. I do believe this will happen. They're looking into legislation to enable that to happen. Again, legislation which people will be critical of, which will say that Netanyahu, while under indictment and in trial, can be a deputy prime minister without ministerial responsibilities and be in the security cabinet. I do believe this will go through. I believe, hopefully, that other parties as well, possibly Labor, will join in this government as well and make it wide enough that hopefully there'll be enough pressure to make it happen. But I do believe this is what Israel needs at this time. And I do believe that Netanyahu would actually suffer politically if he breaks it apart at that point. Let it go the full term and then go to elections in a strong position, having been involved in the government for these past years.
Okay, Dov Lipman, thank you for joining us on i24 News.
Thank you so much.